Hey, this week is Parshas METSORAH, which primarily discusses the laws of when a man finds on himself or on his house leprosy. A white blotch or some white hairs or a blotch on the house, and the purification process. Now, I want to share with you an incredible story that happened at the height of World War II during the Holocaust. There's a very famous rabbi named Rabbi Galinsky, who was a Torah scholar learning in Lithuania at that period of time. Now, the Russians were coming to invade Lithuania, and they were very against religion and definitely didn't want anyone studying any Torah. And Rabbi Galinsky was faced with a choice, as well as many of his friends were faced with a choice to either continue learning or to stop learning because the Russians didn't like Torah learning. And if you were caught learning, you would be sent to Siberia. Sure enough, the Russians invade Lithuania, and they caught Rabbi Galinsky and a few of his friends studying Torah. And they put them up for a trial, and they get condemned for 25 years of hard labor in Siberia. And Rabbi Galinsky was thinking to himself at that point in time, like, this is terrible. I shouldn't have been learning. I shouldn't have been studying Torah. Look what happens now. And his friends that weren't studying Torah were like, wow, we're so lucky we weren't studying. Look, we were saved from the Russian invaders. The next day, the Nazis invaded Lithuania, and any Jew that they found, they sent to the concentration camps, and most of them didn't even make it out alive. They got killed. After the war, Rabbi Galinsky met one of his friends that wasn't caught studying Torah, but one of the scholars that made it out of the concentration camps. And they both started talking, and they were both realizing that what initially looked like a bad thing of being sent to Siberia for Rabbi Galinsky and some of his friends was really the best thing because they got saved from death. The Rambam says that many times we find that when things look good in the beginning, at the end, they don't always turn out that way. And many times bad things happen, and they turn out for the good. In this week's Torah portion, talks about coming to the land of Israel, the promised land, Eretz Yisrael, our promised land. And it says that you'll settle in, and you're going to live there, and you might find saras, leprosy, on the walls. And you're going to be very upset. You just settled in this house recently, and you bought furniture, and you set up the decor, and you're settled, and you got everything, and you're living life, and now all of a sudden there's leprosy, there's saras, and you got to knock down the house in some cases. You have to demolish it. And you're just like so upset. And God promises, Hashem says, that when you knock down the house, you're going to find treasures that the 7 nations hid behind when they were exiled out of Eretz Yisrael, out of our promised land. So sometimes we think in the beginning, oh, this is a terrible thing that's going to happen. But then at the end, when we just have our focus that everything's going to turn out good, things actually end up turning out good, as we see with Rabbi Galinsky. He got saved, and we see that the Jews in Eretz Yisrael and Israel, when they found the saras and they had to demolish the house that they found the treasures, and they were able to build an even nicer house with all the treasures that they found. So the lesson here is to always remember that things may not always look so good, but have your eyes on the end goal, and hopefully it'll turn out good. And Shabbat Shalom from Sloan's Lake.